Welcome to Defying Conventionalism with Tehdy Cosplay and Mera Rose.
Good evening, cosplayers and cosplay enthusiasts alike. Welcome to the Cosplay Update, your go-to source for all things cosplay, creativity, and of course, the remedies for the occasional hot glue gunburn. I'm Tehdy B, your cosplay correspondent who answers the big questions from fellow cosplayers, convention goers, and folks who just really want to know if that elaborate foam armor will survive a hug from your grandma, or if double-sided bias tape is really the alternative to sewing through your thumbs when working with satin.
And I'm Mera, your go-to source for all things cosplay, craftsmanship, and the occasional cosplay-related accident. Yes, I am still traumatized by that one unintended confetti cannon incident last year, and of course Frankenfinger. But tonight, we're talking about the winteriest cosplay competitions of 2024, starting with Colossal Con and Holiday Matsuri. Buckle up, folks, it's about to get glamorous, hilarious, and there might even be a remake of Winter Storm Blair as a glitter event in here.
I am not here for the glitter pox tonight, Mera. But hey, it's all about the journey, right? Let's go to the highlights from the epic cosplay competitions at Colossal Con 2024 and Holiday Matsuri. From wigs that defy gravity to performances that make you question your entire life choices. There's so much to talk about. I'm gonna need a second snack break just to survive this.
11sies already? That really was the only fandom lacking in this amazing set of competitions. Never enough hobbits to justify my eating habits, Tehdy B. Let's dive in with Colossal Con North 2024, the event where hot glue meets high drama, and where your foam armor can sometimes be so epic that it can't even cross the stage. For real, that actually happened.
Yes, let's kick things off with Colossal Con 2024's cosplay contest, where the stakes are high, the costumes are wild, and frankly, I'm still recovering from that Mad Lib style sketch they put on during the halftime show. That was a whole mood.
Oh my god, that sketch was on fire. The sketch featured a cosplayer who's too old for this, a ninja, and an overly excited child, all done by Levi Cosplay. It was like watching a fever dream unfold in real time, and I'm not even sure which part was more entertaining, the ninja's dramatic flips or the absolute delight of the child at everything. I still don't know what was funnier, the actual sketch or the fact that the ninja didn't get paid enough for that level of energy.
I'd pay double to see that ninja's contract. Meanwhile, the child was just like, I'm just excited to be here. The whole thing was insane, and honestly, the best way to wake up from con-induced exhaustion.
Yes, that's right. The hosts this year were none other than Volts and Stripper Bash, who, let's be honest, are probably going to need to sleep until the year 2026, because they hosted, judged, and made all of us laugh all weekend long. And Stripper Bash, he might be the hardest working person in the cosplay world right now, since he was hosting both Colossal Con and Holiday Matsuri's cosplay contest. How does he even have time to glue on his own wig, let alone do the entire contest season?
I don't know, Mera. I think Bash just runs off of sparkles and caffeine at this point. But let's talk about the judges. Megan Sora of Sora Styles, Pros Cons Cosplay, Nexus Nightmare Cosplay, and Cradle of Arms Cosplay. They had their work cut out for them, and the results were incredible.
Yep, first up in the craftsmanship division, we had Z Sisters Cosplay taking home the judge's choice for craftsmanship for their Has-Been Hotel group, with a show-stopping Alistair that looked like it had walked straight out of the cartoon. It was like Has-Been Hotel, but with a high-fashion twist.
Honestly, I don't think I would have asked Alistair for life advice, but absolutely they needed to take home that award. And not to be outdone, Cookie Crumb Cosplay took home the Judge's Choice Award for Felix. Seriously, if Felix was real, I would just follow them around all day. They were that fabulous.
Fabulous Felix, absolutely. As for Best in Show, Undead Toasties took home the big win for their cosplay. If there was ever a cosplay that could stop you mid-sentence and make you say, wait, is this real? This was it. Totally jaw-dropping. The level of detail in that armor was off the charts, and it looked like it came straight out of a Tom Cruise movie.
And let's not forget the performance division. The best overall performance went to Roar Hour as Lord Farquaad from Shrek. If you weren't screaming Fiona, Fiona by the end of their performance, were you even really there? They absolutely slayed it, making all of us remember how much we've been missing out on the Shrek cinematic universe. We all thought they'd just do a funny little walk, but no, they went full on Broadway with that performance.
Seriously. Oh, and shout out to Valkyrie's No Touch World. They wiped out backstage from the shock of the announcement on their win, but like true professionals, they recovered and owned the stage. I want that level of confidence in my life. If I fall in public, I'm just staying down at that point.
For sure. It's all about that resilience. But Mera, we've got to take a quick break and talk about Stripper Vash. Yes, he was everywhere this winter. This poor guy hosted both Colossal Con and Holiday Matsuri cosplay contests, which, I'm pretty sure he needs a vacation just to recover from that much hype. Like, was he eating it all during these events, or just existing off of sheer adrenaline and glitter?
At this point, Stripper Vash probably just exists on sparkles and chaos. He's clearly everywhere at once, like a cosplay host ninja, but at least he wasn't streaking and his suits were on fleek. He had to be dressed to impress, though, alongside Yaya Han and Udahime Cosplay as they hosted Home At.
A dream team, honestly. I convinced if there was an Olympics of cosplay hosting, they would take gold, silver, and bronze. The judges for Holiday Matsuri included Spicy Tide Design, Sarcasm Hime, Fran, Kazuki Cosplay, Matthew Berry, and Twin Cosplay. It was like the Justice League of cosplay judges. They had their hands full.
Oh, they definitely did. There were some amazing winners this year, and so many of them. It was like watching Udahime turn into Oprah, where you get an award, and you get an award, and you too! I really expected them to start calling winners out of the audience. It's the biggest winter event in cosplay for a reason. The Team USA winners for Gaikoff, ECG, and NCC were all announced at Home At along with their own awards. Let's start with the Judges' Choice Awards. We've got Spicy Tie Design choosing Initiative Cosplay for their epic performance, and Sarcasm Hime going with Tiny Mushroom Cosplays, and That's So Ridiculous was Matthew Berry's Judges' Choice Award. Those costumes, flawless.
And then Fran's pick was Iwi Nina Mori, and if you haven't seen her Witcher cosplay, I'm honestly jealous of how it made me feel. Meanwhile, Kazuki Cosplay chose Peach Waikaz for their cosmic level of creativity. Honestly, I'm still wondering if she's secretly from another dimension because that costume was out of this world.
Absolutely. And there were a bunch of other incredible awards too. Alpaca Ash and O Mitsuki snagged Purple Plum's Best Wig Award, and MKS Art took home Spray Gunner's Best Paint Award. Seriously, these folks are working with some next level materials and skills. If I tried to paint like that, my brush would catch fire.
Yep, I'd have to call in the fire department. But let's take a moment to shout out to the Cosplay Cultural Exchange Award. This year's solo winner was Stitchfully Bewitched, and the duo award went to Abradorable and Charmandra Cos. It's like they had their own little cosplay Olympics, and they totally nailed it.
And let's not forget the big international team selections. Bird King and Novice Cosplay are heading to South Korea for the Gyanagi International Cosplay event, and Cottonmouth Cosplay will be representing the US and Sweden at the Nordic Cosplay Championships. Meanwhile, Chickapee is headed to Paris for the Extreme Cosplay Gathering.
Honestly, I'm exhausted just thinking about all that travel. But folks, if you really want to see some next level cosplay, look no further. These amazing cosplayers are taking over the world one con at a time.
Yeah, but, Tehdy B, before we go, can we have a talk about Yaya Han? She received a Lifetime Achievement Award at Holiday Matsuri. Yaya's been in the game for what, 40 years? Wait, no, she's still like 28, right? I mean, Yaya Han getting a Lifetime Achievement Award? Is this a time travel situation? Is she like secretly 87 years old and we just missed the memo?
Seriously? I know Yaya's been in the game since like the Stone Age of cosplay, but the woman is, still 30? I don't know if I should congratulate her or ask her if she secretly made a deal with the cosplay fairy to keep getting younger. How is she just not getting started? I mean, what's next? A Best New Cosplayer award for her in 2045?
I need a TARDIS to keep up with Yaya's career. At this point, she might be the only person in the cosplay community who can get a Lifetime Achievement Award before she even turns 40. I'd almost expect her to pull a Benjamin Button on us and cosplay as a preteen next year. She doesn't age. I need her skincare regimen. It's better than Cher's.
Exactly. But hey, we all know she's earned that award. She's been literally shaping the cosplay world for the last 20 years? She's like the Meryl Streep of cosplay. And look, I'm pretty sure we're all just jealous of how she looks in that spandex at her age. But also, can we talk about her panel? She was dropping wisdom like cosplay Yoda. Everyone in the room was like, how do I make my fabric look as flawless as Yaya? At least her answer wasn't just, get good and maybe some hot glue and duct tape.
And we all know hot glue and duct tape are the secret to many costumes. I can't even keep up with my own sewing projects, and she's out here winning Lifetime Achievement Awards. But hey, Yaya absolutely deserves it. She's shaped this entire cosplay world and then some. I mean, she's advanced the art in the community so much in the last 2 decades. It's actually really exciting to think that the next 2/3 of her lifetime will bring an achievement.
Whatever she's doing, it's working. Congratulations to Yaya and all the winners, hosts, and judges at both Colossal Con and Holiday Matsuri. You all made 2024 the most epic winter cosplay season yet. And remember folks, if your cosplay doesn't have at least one prop that could literally break the audience, are you even cosplaying? Stay creative, stay sassy, and don't forget the Neosporin for your hot glue burns.
Late breaking news, Tehdy B. The Glitterati took so many photos and video at the event that they've unleashed a high pressure system, and now our studio is being filled with Winter Storm Stripper Bash. So much glitter!
It's everywhere. It tastes like fabulousness and regret all at once. That's a crazy glitter force wind that seems to be pushing all the winter out to make way for spring season next time on Cosplay Update.
Yes, Teddy B. I hope the groundhog doesn't see his shadow because I'm not sure the studio can take much more of this sparkly cheer. Good night, everyone, and may you avoid the glitter pox. Your wigs always stay in place, and your props never be too heavy to carry.
Today on Defying Conventionalism, Episode 4 of Crossroads of Cosplay on International Competition. This is the 101 series featuring Charlene Ingram, cosplayer Jedimanda, cosplayer Tamarah Dixon of Pros Cons Cosplay, and cosplayer Brittani Ginoza. It's going to be a great episode. We hope you guys are looking forward to it as much as we are. If you like it, go ahead and give us a like, a subscribe, and leave a comment. Welcome back to Defying Conventionalism. This is, of course, episode 4. We hope you've gotten a chance to catch up on our last 3. And if you haven't, well, they're all online again at defyingconventionalism.com. You can also find them on the YouTube channel, which hopefully is where you're watching this. But if you're catching us on Twitch, check us out there as well. So on today's episode, you probably see these wonderful people that have joined us today. We have got 4 amazing talents that are all involved in international competitions. And so on today's episode, we wanted to discuss a little bit about what international competition looks like. You've probably been involved in local competitions. Maybe you've been to them, you've seen them, maybe you've done some regionals, maybe you've been to a couple of big cons, maybe you've been on a bigger stage. Well, today, we're going to talk about what the rest of the big side of the community looks like with all of these international, like the people that make the big bucks doing this, because we all get paid, right?
The big bucks. The big bucks.
So I'm Mera Rose, and of course, with me as always is
Tehdy B Cosplay.
So I'm going to actually go to the, I think it's my right or left on this screen. I'm pointing the right direction. So we have with us today, of course, Charlene Ingram. And so, Char, can you tell us a little bit about what you do, what organization you're with, and how you're involved with international competitions?
So I'm Charlene Ingram. Cosplayers may know me from way back in the days, Tristen Citrine. I've run many cosplay competitions for over 20 years now. The most recent cosplay contests I ran were the Crunchyroll Hime's Cosplay Cup that was at Crunchyroll Expo. I started running that one in 2019 and expanded to be an international video submission contest for the next few years. Crunchyroll Expo is currently on hiatus. But if and when it comes back, the Hime Cup was one of the big marquee events. And there was a lot of learnings there of not just running an international competition, but running it juried with videos and all the international broadcast rights that came with that. So not only was it a cosplay competition, it was a worldwide broadcast. So my professional background is in marketing and brand management in the video game industry, previously in the anime industry. So it's a really good way to blend my love and career of cosplay with all of my other professional attributes. So I'm always here to mentor and talk to other cosplayers and cosplay contest runners about how to make contests accessible worldwide through the use of video and highlighting different types of fans.
I absolutely love that. Accessibility is a huge thing. And the fact that the international community is finally starting to move forward and embrace all of these leaps and bounds and accessibility is awesome and amazing. We're actually going to be doing some episodes upcoming on accessibility and inclusion, so we might have to bring you back for that too. A lot of cosplayers that
they either can't go to conventions or or choose not to, and there's so much talent out there. and opening things up to streaming and video really lets us see a lot of that talent that is in our fandom that we might not see at our local convention or at our big events like your Comic-Cons, your Dragon Cons, your Anime Expos that are just like big squishes of people.
Yeah, and it's also nice for, people that have, some of the issues with being out in those large, crazy crushes. Maybe they're very comfortable at their home cons and they want to expand and be able to compete internationally. But, there is that huge side of cons where you've got so many people packed into these convention centers. So, I mean, I think it's a big deal. And, I'm sure that's going to be a very interesting episode when we get to that one too. So Brittani, Brittani Ginoza, can you tell us a little bit about you and what you do with the international cosplay community?
I have done probably fewer international competitions. Like I've judged a couple of them, so that's kind of what we're talking about too. So I have judged a couple of them. They weren't like international, like ICL international, but I judged them internationally more or less. And then I've judged C2E2 as well, which is technically an international competition, even if it is in my backyard, basically.
Right.
I think we've all kind of got something to do with C2 one way or another, but
1 point.
What else? I'm a cosplayer, maker, painter, do a little bit of dabbling in everything. I'm kind of most well known for like my painting style, and I make things look really, really cartoony, like they came right out of a video game. That's like my signature, I guess you could say. And what else? I won the TwitchCon costume contest in 2022, and like I said, I've judged internationally, things of that nature. I don't know what else to include.
Oh no, that's great. Actually, TwitchCon's a huge deal. Sorry, Brian, didn't mean to cut you off there.
No, I was just gonna say that costume, just wow. I mean, like just looking at it, when I first saw the pictures of it, I was like, that is not real. There's no way that is real. That's on the stage right now, and just like the detail that went into that, it's like it blew my mind. Like I just couldn't imagine that you could turn foam into rope. Like
I did do that. That was a thing that I decided to do.
Yeah, some of the techniques once you get into this level of competition get a little crazy.
They do.
You have some really you were talking about your painting skills, and you have really tripped me out with some of the things you've done. And speaking of crown and insane skills, we also have of course Tamarah Dixon from Pros and Cons Cosplay joining us. So Tamarah, can you tell everyone what you do with international costuming and cosplay?
Sure thing. Hi all, I'm Tamarah from Pro from Pros and Cons Cosplay. Super excited to be here. Yeah, I probably am not as, has had as much international experience as some folks do, but I've competed in Crown 2022, and I was super thankful to have won the US title for 2022, which was super exciting. And I got to fly to London to go represent the US there at that stage, which was super awesome. I've judged a couple of international contests as well. And then in the back, I show run as well. And I think we're on year 8 of show running, which is crazy to think about. And while I don't run an international show, I run a qualifier for a qualifier of an international show, if you will. So getting to work with other conventions and kind of contracting in that kind of way has been really exciting and interesting. Just kind of thinking through one, how to be a good competitor and how to impart good competition, if you will, and other folks, making contests really smooth, but also smooth for people who may not be from the same culture as you are is really, really important. And kind of as Shar was mentioning, right, wanting to make it as inclusive as possible. And one of the reasons I really like kind of being a qualifying event for an international show is that, it's a lot cheaper to fly to my show, which is in the middle of the Midwest, where flights aren't as expensive than sometimes flying to big coastal shows. And so we can provide a little bit more access to folks to get to those bigger opportunities if they're not in the Midwest. So it's been a really fun ride. I love competing. I love running shows. I just love getting to interact with folks from all around the world doing weird-ish in costume. It's great.
That's awesome. And you also run one of the larger Facebook groups for
Oh
cosplay
yeah,
contest support, you and your sister, with
forget about that.
yeah, so you got a contest runners group and you got a cosplay contest competitors support group. And so I know like that's been very helpful to a lot of people. Uh,
Yeah, it's definitely been a time. There's like it's an interesting kind of mix seeing both because I like the idea of there being two groups. One's for showrunners, right, where we get to talk about kind of the experience of being a showrunner, kind of talk through some of the operational side of things, and then also getting to see the contestant one because I think even, as folks have been competing for a long time, it can be really difficult to remember, okay, like how do I think like a beginner? How do I put
right.
myself in their shoes and think about the things that they're going to be freaked out about or whatever? And sometimes I was like, I never would have thought to be concerned about that thing. Seems wild. But or hey, like maybe we should make these things better in our operation. So it's great to get to see all of the wild things people share in those groups. So it's a good time.
It is. It's a lot of fun. I love watching what people share online, and actually that brings me to Amanda because that's how I found her was online through all of her amazing like you make some of the craziest, coolest stuff I think I've ever seen.
Thank you.
So, if you can tell our viewers a little bit about who you are and what you do, that would be great.
Hi, I'm Amanda. I go by Jedimanda online. I mainly fluctuate in the sewing side of costuming. I've been sewing since forever and a day, but I am officially an international competitor as of this past year. I won the US qualifier at the UmaCon, which is the feeder for the International Cosplay League, or as some people call the ICL, that finals in Madrid, Spain every September. So that was really amazing and very eye-opening.
It's super exciting.
It was super cool. I don't know what it is, but like when you compete, I've competed and judged many costume contests, but I've definitely competed all over the US from like the West to the East Coast. But like when you fly into a different country, you think you're this and then you feel like this and like, oh, there's other people in this world that are really, really good. And so that was really cool. I'm really thankful that I could see like what Spanish cosplayers like to do and talk with them, and like everyone's a little bit different, but we're all the same. And it was really neat. The different things that they have in their countries versus what we have in ours, and vice versa that we don't have in theirs, and back and forth. So that was really cool. I'm definitely willing to talk a lot about that. But yes, I've also had my hand in judging many a convention. I was, oh gosh, what year was it? 2018 regional winner, C2E2, I think. It's been a hot second. But yeah, that's me. Oh, and I'm also an author of 2 cosplay books that talk about competitions as well. And the first one, I should probably grab them. One moment.
Yes, that would be excellent. We do love to plug books. Yay! Okay, cool.
Yeah.
By
I
the
know
way,
I have at least one of those. I don't remember which one.
No, I have them both, and I'm telling you right now, it was so funny because somebody shared this on my Facebook feed, and I went, wait, whoa, that's Star Wars.
What?
Yes,
Like,
it is.
that was officially the first time I've ever seen anyone cosplay that character.
Really?
And it was on a book cover.
This is Ahsoka? Oh,
Yeah,
that's really
that is
cool.
Ahsoka. And I was like, and it was on a book cover, and I went, she's my new favorite person. I'm watching her for a while.
Oh my God. Thank you.
I'm too much of a Star Wars geek for my own good.
I do like a Star War. It's good.
Yep.
Star Wars is good.
It's good stuff. So, okay. First question, that obviously I think all competitors, when they first start looking at, I want to go to this next level. What is international competition all about? Should I be terrified? Am I any good? Can I make it? Right. So we all kind of go through those things in our head. We go out, we look, and we're like, okay, wait a minute. How are there so many different competitions? So there are multiple organizations and multiple competitions, and not all competitions are the same or related. But there's a lot of confusion about this. So we've got the International Costumers Guild, not so much of a thing anymore, but used to be back in the day, that really is involved with World Con and Costume Con, although this is the last year for Costume Con, for those who didn't know.
I didn't know that.
Yeah,
I didn't know that.
Karen's retiring. From what I hear, noise. And so then you've got the International Cosplay League, you've got Crown Champion, and then you've got Hime Cup.
Other like bespoke events.
Yes. And so when everybody's looking at all the events, would you recommend competing in one over another? Or what stage would you say would be a good stage for people to start at on an international level?
If I could, someone can go ahead.
Yeah.
No, I think the first thing I want to say is you need to figure out if you want to compete on a craftsman side or a masquerade side. That's the absolute first decision.
Absolutely.
That's what I was going to say.
Yeah, and I was going to say to that point, the type of contest. Like some have those divisions between performance and construction. Some are blended contests, like Hime Cup was. It's up to the contest runner to put the desired culture of the contest into the rules by the way the rules are written, by the way the rules are laid out, by the way the communication happens. So those competitors can decide what type of contest fits your vibe. As the contest fitting your vibe has got a big part of how much of a good time you're going to have. It's a competition. Everybody wants to win, but not to sound all wacky woo-woo, there's many ways to win.
There are, though.
There's Hime Cup we really prided ourselves on not just offering really big cash prizes, but building camaraderie amongst the competitors, leading all the way up into the event and beyond. Like we still have Hime Cup Discord servers that are still going on, and there's still communication happening in them, and we haven't had Hime Cup in a couple years. So it just depends on that culture, like what vibes best with you. And the cool thing is now that there are so many international costume competitions, you can really pick the first one that feels right for you. And if you're anything like me, or a lot of people who cosplay, who kind of like have that theater bug, you're going to get hit by the bug.
Yeah.
And once you have your first one that hopefully is a really good one, that is going to equip you to explore more contests. But as a former competitor and a contest runner, it is up to the runner and the organization all the way up to the top to set the culture for the contest into the rules and in everything that contest does. And you as a competitor should demand for that to be clear. That's my soapbox.
That's a good soapbox.
Really good
No, I
know.
think it's an excellent point. I mean, you do need, especially when you're a new competitor to the international scene, I think it's very important that people understand, are my craftsman skills where they need to be? Am I better at performance? Would I prefer to put on a show versus being judged on my construction, or do I want both? I mean, that's an excellent point.
I'm a total package type of person. I think I'm back from the olden days of the old conventions, essentially like teenage party weekends and like a hotel, like a airport Marriott, where you were the entertainment on multiple levels. Yep. You had to make it yourself. You had to entertain. You had to do everything for your crowd and your people. I think it's cool that now there's contests that kind of divide both sides, but my heart and what I always advocate for is that total package, because I think performing can make a construction focused individual better at construction, because through performance they can find out ways to make their construction be conveyed through the stage. A performance type of cosplayer can learn some construction skills that even if they're not fully making their costume, they can get in touch and learn how to alter their costume or make it so it tells their story better from the stage. So both sides really do help each other.
Yeah, we had that happen this past year at
the content or the con in the South with our Beetlejuice group that we did the masquerade for, and it was an absolutely fun performance. We had so much fun doing it. It was my first time competing in that contest, and one of the things that I had to figure out was we did the rip away arm from the musical, and so I had to figure out how to do that. And so we were like, yeah, I just playing around with things. I got the little tiny magnets and sewed them into the seams and everything. We pulled that right off, and they were just like, everybody's like, what just happened? There's now an arm swinging around stage. And so I see exactly what you're saying with that, where you figure out through performance how you can like modify your costumes to make it fit for what you need. So it's really neat how both sides of it, the competing versus the performance, can enhance the other.
Yeah. And it makes cosplay better as an art form.
I do think we definitely need, as the more craftsmanship based people, to start maybe branching out more towards that, because I would say a vast majority of people who compete craftsmanship wise do not branch out to that until they're ready to just go international. They're not typically just doing it just to do it. They're doing it because they're like, I want to go one step higher. And in order to do that, to do an international competition, generally speaking, there's going to be a performance element.
And that helps you, not to get back on my soapbox real quick, for the cosplayers that want to, and the crafts people who want to pursue costuming as a career, those performance skills help you land jobs. So, before my career in marketing, I worked as a stitcher and a lead wardrobe for shows in Las Vegas. And I came at it from a cosplay background. My portfolio was all the cosplays that I made and I wore myself.
I am recording
skills as a cosplayer if you want to pursue it professionally as a costumer. That performance aspect will absolutely help you land jobs. So before my career in marketing, my current career, I worked in Vegas for 10 years on shows in Las Vegas. And my portfolio coming into that was all cosplays that I had made and worn myself. I'd learned all these skills. Yes, I had some a little bit of a theatrical background. I knew how to do this professionally. I could do it on a professional level. But my skills I learned and refined through performing helped me sell myself so I can work on those shows. Those onstage skills became my interview skills. And working professionally, being accountable to a show, being accountable to your actors and your crew backstage, that made me an even better cosplayer, and it gave me resilience. And I wouldn't have landed some of my first jobs if I wasn't afraid of going on stage. So that's something else to think about for the craftspeople.
Actually, that's an excellent point. And one of the reasons why I ended up both doing cosplay and also starting the company that I did, because I do production design and I do costumes, sets, props, all that fun stuff. And I work with a lot of theaters and entertainment companies. And I got into it because of the fact that I started in cosplay in the late 90s. And when you and I were competing, because correct me if I'm wrong, but I'm fairly certain we were both competing like late 90s through mid 2010s, right? I think we were both on the competition scene around the same time. And of course, back then I competed as Tempest Rose, so nobody knows who that is now. But the subset is, yes, we all developed these sewing skills and these crazy skills that like people never would have thought to develop. Nobody was working with thermoplastics. Nobody knew what thermoplastics were. So, we're taking foam boards and stripping them apart from paper to create, all these little things. And that's how I started working with the first thermo. And then, of course, Wonderflex came out, and Foz Shape had been around for a while, but nobody knew what these were. They were used primarily in puppetry and in theaters. And then they started coming into the cosplay community, and now they're so widely used they almost inform on every costume, and they're half of the panels that we do at cons now. So I think you're absolutely right. Cosplay can lead to a very beneficial and productive career if you are driven to that. I think that's an excellent point. Sorry, Brittany, you seemed like you had something to say there for a minute with that.
No, I don't know. I said something before, and you guys all finished my thoughts, so it's all good.
Oh, sorry. Okay. So, so with competing on the international stage that you guys have done now, I know you're talking about first times. What were the big things that made you decide this is the time for me to compete? This is the contest I wanted to go for.
I'm
Like-
a big. Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
No, go.
I'm a big researcher, and I will research until my eyes bleed. And I felt at the time, Crown really felt like the contest that I really wanted to enter. I tend to focus more towards craftsmanship in terms of my like preferred style of competing. I've performed before, but craftsmanship was my thing. Loved in 2012. That was 2012, 2022. And that was the year they introduced performance to Crown. So that was kind of a fun like element to get to try out with that with I think Reed Pop absorbed the oh my gosh, I'm blanking on the name of the circuit that it was in Europe. But anyway, they absorbed that and then
Euro
they
cosplay.
Thank you. Yes,
Yeah,
Euro cosplay.
yeah.
They absorbed Euro cosplay, and so that was kind of a nod to the old Euro cosplay as they absorbed that piece and added a performance element. So that was kind of cool to get to stretch those legs a little bit. For me, I think one of the important things, and this kind of goes back to the last question, is kind of knowing thyself, right? Like if you're one who stresses out by travel, who doesn't like to have to deal with things more than one time, like competing, you have to really think about those things a lot with internet, with any kind of circuit con that has multiple parts to it, right? Typically it's C2E2. If you play your cards right, you could just enter in Chicago and then not have to go anywhere and figure out where you're going to be all in that one weekekend. But most circuit cons are going to have you have to do multiple steps. In that particular year, they had us do at least 2 steps from the process. So it's really thinking through, okay, I've got to figure out a flight situation and I've got to figure out a backup flight situation because planes be planing. I've got to figure out how I'm going to deal with my luggage or build my props and staging that's going to be able to be transported across international lines, which means looking at the chemical regulations, the weight regulations, all that other good stuff. And so it just kind of adds an additional element of thinking. As a planner, I liked that kind of element of things, so I liked the challenge. And so for me, I too had competed at quite a few contests in the United States and was just ready to try to elevate things a little bit more for my personal sense of self, and to just kind of see what was going on in the international ring. So yeah, that was at least my thought process as I did it.
I think that there's
All right.
like also like a kind of crappy part about being somebody that's like overseas going somewhere like and having to do performance, especially because I competed at Polymanga one year, which is like they bring somebody from each country to like come there to do the thing. But so there was like people who were from there that could make like full bars out of wood and like bring up on stage to do that whole thing. And I'm just stuck with like my one suitcase and like PVC and like fabric, like trying to make something work. But like they're able to do like so much more just by like being able to like drive over or whatever.
Mhm.
Yeah, so they've got like the home field advantage.
They do. And we
Yeah.
do here too, I feel like, but still.
I feel like with the travel, like I know Brittany, when you did Twitch and had to go, it wasn't out west with your.
I made a choice.
You made a choice.
I made a
because
choice.
you could fly with
I
that.
could have, but it would have been a
But-
whole other problem. So I was just like, I didn't want to take the chance, so I drove.
Mhm.
I drove. I
made it
took
from
the chance to do a
Midwest.
cross country trip.
That's a long drive.
It is a
That
long
is-
drive, but
that's
it was
commitment.
cool. We did the Grand Canyon. Like we went to some
That's
cool
awesome.
places and did a bunch of fun things. So I was just like, let's just make a thing of it. I could try to make this part of the costume come apart, even though it definitely should not come apart. So I was just like, you know what? I'm just gonna take it and I'm just gonna drive it. It's fine, and it won't get broken that way.
There
Right,
you
I could've
go.
shipped it,
I
but-
tried, did a competition here, couple back in, I think it was 20 or 21. We're really like one of the first ones back, and I did a armored Sailor Pluto for that one, the first one I did, and I didn't even want to drive an hour and a half with that because I was so nervous it was just going to fall apart, and like let alone drive across country with that build specifically. So
It's sturdy.
Applause.
It's sturdy, honestly. I just didn't want to. The big thing was like, what if I ship it today and it doesn't get there for 3 weeks, but it needs to be there in 1 week. That was
Yeah.
like, if it gets lost, I'm absolutely effed. I was just like, I'd rather just drive. It's going to be 5 extra bags if I decide to fly. Like, so driving was just the way to go for that one.
I've done that a few times. I actually, the weirdest con I've ever had, I rented a 24-foot U-Haul to load up all of the sets and props and costumes. But to be fair, we also had a competition entry with 5 children, 2 of whom were mobility disabled, that involved a mobility accessible cosplay that was built on Power Wheels. And so there was no way we were shipping it. We knew when we started building it, it was going to be at least a $600 trip to get to the competition. Just in the U-Haul charges.
Right.
So
It's
what
worth
about
it for
you?
cosplay.
Yeah, right. Everything for cosplay. We do some crazy stuff.
We do.
What about you, Amanda?
Well, one of my biggest things was I had to travel to Spain with a dagger. And so I had to
How'd you
break it
explain it to
apart.
the TSA?
Well, the good thing was I didn't have to explain anything because I built it to break apart, and it
Right.
broke off to the blade and the handle. And so the handle was fine, but the blade definitely looked like a blade. So I had one of those, conversations in my brain to myself as I was packing. I was like, okay, if I put the blade in the checked and the handle in the carry-on, should be fine. And I also had battery elements, so I had to make sure all the batteries were undone and everything. Everything was golden, but I did end up putting like a sheet in all of my luggage that was like, "Hi, I am blah blah blah. I am going to Spain for a
Please do not
competition. This is
destroy
a
my stuff."
costume. Do not like." I was trying to explain it so hard to where if I got checked, they would at least know why there is an oddly glowing dagger in my my luggage.
I mean, we've heard the horror stories. We know what can happen.
I know, and that's so hard, and that is a huge thing. But I did bake that into the build of the prop, making
awesome.
sure I was like, I can travel with that. And that was something I said in judging too. And I was like, I have the ability to travel.
Yes.
There you go.
Yay.
With traveling too, you always have like those TSA members who sometimes just want to see things.
Yeah, that's true.
Oh yeah, I didn't want to be one of those.
Yeah, I had a charity organization I was working for. I still do, where I do drag from time to time, and it's a charity drag organization, and we have to travel around the country with giant crowns. So I have a giant crown that it's really nice looking, and in a carry-on box. And almost every time I stop into the airport, they like push it off to the side because they just want to see it. And I'm like,
I just want to see it.
"Here, stop! I need to go."
Cute, but like I gotta go.
I got things to do.
Have
I
any
got
of
things to
y'all-
do.
have any of y'all had anything like that where they're just like, I just want to see this?
I don't
Luckily,
think
no.
so. I feel like I always get stopped because they're like, "Oh, I don't like your boots," and I'm like, "I'm just a normal person."
Just your boots.
Hey, I'll say this: getting TSA pre-check and global entry, like all of those things that
Worth
it can
it.
help go through, so worth it because that extra level of, oh, you're not a threat. is
Unless
less
you dress
likely
like
for them
me,
to be like
unless
that.
you dress like
Or-
me, and then they
Or
stop
Or
me every
you put spikes on your
time.
boots.
I mean,
Well, yeah, TSA pre-check.
I dress relatively benignly when I have to go to the airport,
Yeah,
but
and I probably should, but
I have to carry a little card that's signed by my doctor because I set off the metal detector every time I walk through. Because Frankenfinger does not play nice with people. And when you've got an implant and you've got, a cybernetic finger, and you set things off, they love to mess with you. And so I'm just like,
so glad. Don't let
here's
them
my-
be.
here's my medical.
Yeah. For me, it's 50-50 because I have a fake hip. And so I'm like, do I wear a belt today or not? And they're like, it says, it depends on, do I have the belt on? Will it set it off? Do I not? No. And it's always 50-50. So I'm always telling them right up at the gate. And I thank you for being upfront about that. Like,
Yeah.
you're welcome.
So, thinking about travel considerations and things of that nature so that, people are picking competitions that they want to do, whether it be, performance, construction, a blend of both, how far they want to travel, what kind of considerations they need to make in their builds.
it's always good to ask other people what they think of the competitions that have done it before.
That, yes. And
Mm.
it can be difficult sometimes to find communities of people that have done these. Not everyone has the benefit of being involved in, organizations where they can just go, hey, has anybody ever done Crown? So, what resources did you guys find? I know, Tamarah, you were saying you did a lot of investigation. When you were doing your investigation, what did you come across that might help others kind of get their feel and their ideas in their head for what they may want to do?
Um, I don't necessarily recommend this approach. I'm kind of intense, but I think what I think one thing that was mentioned, I think, is talking to other competitors. That's a great way to kind of get a sense of the show. Shar said something I really loved earlier too about reading the rules. I think that gives you a really good understanding of the culture of the event, what the expectations are, the breakdowns, that kind of thing. And then don't just read the rules for that year, read them for the years prior, see what changes were made, and that can kind of give you some insight as to maybe if they're different, why was there a difference? Or if they're the same, okay, this thing consistently worked, that kind of thing. Beggar the kind of the what's the word I want to say? The kind of your mileage may vary with online reviews of things because you get your salty salt buckets after they lose a competition or whatever, saying whatever on social media. So I
Yeah.
don't necessarily use that as much. I talk to folks who've competed who I trust and know. I'll sometimes reach out to showrunners. I will be the one to ask the question via email to get context if I think that's helpful. So I think a lot of competitors are scared to email the showrunner if they have a question about something. Do that. That's why
Yeah, do
there's an
that.
email address, right? Like, yeah, right. Like, email them.
That's
It's
what
so
they're
much.
there for.
Right. Why spend thousands of dollars on costuming and travel and stress and you not know the answer to something and guess when you can just email the person in charge of the thing to get the answer? And I can't stress that enough. That's why that email address exists. Typically, the showrunner is not a judge, so that you can ask more like specific questions if you're worried about it impacting your score. Also, the cosplay contest support group has been really, really helpful. A lot of competitors go in there, like I said, with worries or concerns, especially with entering big contests. And it's just really nice sometimes to see the comment section, like, no, like I'll break down what this looks like, how this will work. And a lot of times the showrunner's in there too, and they can be able to chime in and kind of explain how stuff works. So those are my usual methods. And then I do it for a couple years before I decide what I'm going to do with stuff.
So you actually just brought up a great question that I'd really love to get an answer from Char on. Char, from a showrunner perspective, what are some questions you wish new competitors would ask?
I honestly, my favorite competitors were the ones that were borderline unfiltered. Like, read the rules. Like, don't treat your showrunner email like an FAQ, right? Read the rules, have an understanding of it, but then just ask questions and jam. And also, I love the competitors that saw something missing and just asked for what they needed, because it's almost always they're not the only one that needs something. So I had one year in Hime Cup where it was international and was a video submission contest that was going over to internet. There was one competitor that was a little unsure about how great their uploadability would be for their final video, and asked if they could send a flash drive or a hard drive just in case. Yeah,
That's
absolutely.
excellent.
Yeah. Like that's a really easy backup and the solve, right? And then we also had international judges as well. So it was, there's one year that we bumped the contest up about an hour because we had a judge that was in a very incompatible time zone, but we really, really wanted their participation. We wanted them to feel comfortable. So I love when competitors will just ask clarifying questions, ask for what you need within reason, and just be communicative. Like, be kind, be gracious, be understanding. Of course, in your emails, be direct and to the point. Don't expect to treat email like a chat. Like a 24 to 48 hour turnaround is fine. I would get some people who would essentially treat email like it was a Teams message. Like, a lot of these showrunners have another job as well, but don't be afraid. Showrunner is there for you. You are the actors. You are the entertainment. Like, you are a part of that crew. They are there to help you. They are there to facilitate the contest. They are there to direct the contest. And if multiple cosplayers have concerns, that can make the rules better for the next year. So
Absolutely.
yeah. One of
I
my
think
favorite sayings of all time is asking's always free. So just ask.
I think that's a great point. I mean, I think when Brian and I were working on that contest that unfortunately can't be named, one of the things that we really loved doing, especially this past year, was the building of the lineup and the run order and putting together, the actual performance side of the show, because every year is so different. But when contestants communicate and you really get a feel for what they're looking to do, what they want to put on stage, what they're trying to do to entertain the audience, what questions they have about, dimensions or how their costume can be presented, you get a better idea as a showrunner as to how to showcase it. So that way you're framing it, you're building the picture or you're building the frame for their beautiful picture that's going to be on stage. And I'm sure you've experienced this too, right, Tamarah? Like you've run international contests as well. What are some things you wish, contestants had asked or talked with you about?
That's a great question. What I love about my community in particular is they're typically not afraid to ask, which I love. I wish sometimes folks would ask things earlier, right? Of like, okay, we put these rules out a lot in advance, and so like don't wait till the very last to be like, oh crap, I should ask if I can bring this material wherever. And like that would have been an early stage question, right? But I think a lot of times folks have questions about like how they should class themselves, like beginner, intermediate, master. Luckily, in the international scale, that's really not an issue, which is great. So there's no kind of class determinations, but that's the biggest question we get. Yeah, I think maybe I would also ask competitors, like, especially in the US, I think we really try to make things really inclusive. So if there are things that that you need to make your show experience match the accessibility needs you have, don't be afraid to ask those questions, right? Do you need a handler to be with you at all times? You can share that with the showrunner in advance, preferably in advance, so that we can make sure there's extra ribbons or whatever for those folks. Do you need to see the stage in advance? Sometimes tech rehearsal is possible, sometimes it's not, depending on the show. But if you need that to be able to feel more comfortable in your space, do you need a ramp? Let's talk about how we're going to enter and exit, like those kinds of questions, so that you can prepare yourself when you get there. There's nothing worse than trying to figure out like how you're going to get on the stage, like once you get there, right? So asking those questions in advance, I think, is really, really good. And I encourage more contestants to just really take control of what their experience is going to be like and not be afraid to ask kind of what that's going to look like when they get there. So.
Yeah. So, we talk about the running and we talk about the competing, but what about the judging? I mean, judging these international competitions that, I think contestants, especially first timers, they get kind of that understandable anxiety about putting their costume out there, putting their work out there in front of people that they probably have never been judged by before, have no frame of reference for how they're going to judge. As a competitor or as a judge or as a contest runner, what would you want first-time competitors to know about the judging process and what kind of things they should expect? And also what kind of things might help them get through it?
Be prepared. Just be prepared. Be over-prepared. Rehearse. If you have time to talk with the judges, a lot of people put a lot of effort into build book, and there's so many beautiful build books. Yeah. But it really comes down to your elevator pitch, your interpersonal communications, your if you got 3 to 5 minutes, treat it like you're on Shark Tank.
Yeah.
Play the hits, go through the highlights. Don't dwell on what you think you went wrong. You are there to sell it. You're there to close. Like let your work do the talking, let your build book do a lot of that detailed talking, but in that room with the judges, give them what they need to hear and what makes you stand out.
I think that's a great point. Brittani, what I love she raised her hand. I'm like, yes!
Something that I'm kind of a big proponent for, I know not everybody is into this, but I think that it's actually extremely helpful being a judge, is making your build book as short and sweet as you can. As far as words go, you should do the bare minimum words. You shouldn't be writing text on text on text on text on text. And that's for you. But like, we just are basically going to look at those photos, maybe look for a couple of keywords. And at the end of the day, we basically probably know what you did, most likely. And if you think it's something that we don't know, you could maybe add a little bit more information about that. But most of the time, the judges, especially on the international level, are going to know what the heck you're talking about. So you're more just, in my opinion, proving that you made it, more or less. That's kind of what I think. I mean,
that's an excellent point. Now, I want to say something about proving that you made it after we get through this question. So, what about you, Amanda?
Yeah, one of my biggest things, and I found that out this past competition at the ICL, was to speak slow, because sometimes English is not the first language of your judges,
right.
and that is a problem, because sometimes they can't keep up with you. And I'm a very fast talker, very fast, especially when you only have 3 to 5 minutes or even less. So really maximizing that elevator pitch and speaking normally and slower in some cases, especially on an international level.
I think that's a good point of trying to figure out exactly what, like Char was saying, like sells your cosplay. So what sells this that would take this above someone else? With your book and everything, just trying to make sure everything is there. You're very succinct and
you just go to straight. Just say, I made my gloves and I made my shoes. I'm just like, oh, okay,
yeah.
Well, all right, see how it is.
Especially on an international level where you are most likely a master, most likely, not all, most likely a master level. Everybody knows what you say when you draft a corset. You know, in my Rhaenyra cosplay, I specifically picked out the fact that I vented my wig, and I talked about those small things, because that's not really every single person's doing that. That's something I wanted to highlight. And then like electronics works and other things, but like you can tell if things are sewn, they're sewn well, you're here. You know.
Yeah,
you start with something like I made this, like, I'm like, say you made 100% of it. I sewed this, I made this out of foam, I made this out of blah, blah, blah. And then focus on those more high level skill cap items, because they're going to know, like, after you say, I made this out of foam, they're going to understand everything else that comes with it. They're going to, generally, they're going to understand a lot of sewing things, except for maybe more intricate, detailed type things.
Right.
Yeah, I think, now it's a lot more understandable that judges are going to have a wider base of skills. I mean, back in early millennia, we had to educate some of the judges because they were really good with sewing, but didn't understand thermo, had never seen foam work, that kind of thing. These days, everybody is at least familiar with basic 3D printing terminology. They're familiar with foam. They may not be like hands-on 100%. We know exactly how you made this.
But they know enough to suss people out generally. I mean, if you have a good set of judges, then one person is going to know, and then the other two people maybe don't, and the first person can be like, okay, they were lying, or they definitely did it, or they know enough, or whatever.
I think
usually why there's a lot of us.
Yeah, I think judges know how to ask good questions of their fellow judges that might be content experts.
Yes. I think it's really important also when you're looking at the rules, take a look at how many minutes you have in prejudging with your judges.
That's a huge one.
When you set up your elevator pitch, do not take more than a quarter of the time that you have for your elevator pitch, and practice it. Make sure it's good to go, and highlight whatever you want them to see in your build book, the things you want to point out the most in your elevator pitch. Those are just my pet peeves.
I will say too, it's just like, oh, sorry, go ahead.
Okay, go ahead.
I think what's nice about the international contest realm is I wouldn't call it a beginner realm, right? It's mostly masters competing, as Amanda said, and I feel like that kind of creates an additional pressure as you're going in. So I can't highlight enough how important it is to practice, because you want to leave room in your brain for the nerves, right? So if you already have an autopilot of what your thing is going to be, you can have some space left in your brain to deal with the stress of competing internationally, right? I was practicing my speech and how I was going to go through my costume, like in the car on the way to Crown. I was practicing it in the shower. Like, I am ready to go, because I knew, okay, Tamarah, what's going to trip up your brain when you get in there? Oh, because you're going to be star-studded by all these amazing people next to you, right? So, so really practicing is really, really important. And I think thinking about judging in a different way too, right? Like in I think I can speak mostly to the US, right? A lot of these shows, you kind of have, again, classes, beginner, intermediate, master. It's a little bit more of a relaxed judging experience. Folks are kind of there to help you feel better in the judging room. And while the judges, I felt in my experience, were wonderful, very, very nice people, they still have a job to do, and you kind of feel a little bit more like, okay, we're here to sell it. So, really making sure that your points are crisp and clear, but also that you're representing your work in the best possible way, thinking about it as like, okay, I'm thinking about adding points to my overall score. I'm not really thinking about the subtracting. I have to think about the addition, right? And how am I going to create a piece that is not only representative of my skills, but also contemplating that I'm going against skills on other levels and other countries and other things. So it's just a different way of thinking about how you approach your costume, I feel like, in an international sphere, because you're competing at such a high level.
I think that's an excellent point. And Amanda, you had said something too that I think can't be highlighted enough, especially if you're going outside of the US to compete. You're going to come across judges that do not speak English as a primary language, and they do have accents and things of that nature. And so sometimes you're not expecting it and you can hear it, and they'll ask you a question, maybe you don't understand what they said. And I actually went through this at a international competition that I was doing in Ireland. And, you hear it and you're just like, I have no idea what you said. And you can't be afraid to ask them to repeat themselves. But I felt like asking to repeat themselves a second time, because I really could not understand what was being said even twice, was a little rude. So I caught what a couple of the words were, and I was like, I think this is what they're asking. So I just kind of threw out, an answer to the question that I thought they were giving, and then moved on, like pivoted. And so I think it's all, like Char was saying, it goes back to like your ability to kind of play on your feet and be able to kind of bounce back and keep going. It goes with the interviewing skills and that kind of thing. And so these are all really, really important things to kind of keep in your mind, be prepared for the crazy that's going to happen. And I know you guys have had crazy happen on stage too. So how do you deal with that?
Laugh and
throw out something that Tamarah said real quick. When you're thinking about being in that judging room, it's all additive, not subtractive. You're not getting your points taken away because you're in that room. That means you belong in that room. You're in that contest. You belong in that contest.
Yes.
It's all about putting points on the board, not taking points away. You are there to accentuate the positive and show off your hard work. It is all about adding. You have to, gosh, I'm sounding so wacky woo woo. You got to bring an abundance mindset to that judging room.
Yes. I love that too. And that's the other thing. A lot of people think they're competing against other people. They don't realize at this level of competition, you're not, it's not Tamarah competing against Brittani or Amanda competing against Tamarah. It is Tamarah being scored on Tamarah's costume and Amanda's costume being scored on Amanda's costume. They're not comparing the two and saying, oh, this one's better by this many, blah, blah, blah. These details are better than this. That is not how it goes until you get to the very end process. And then it's really only to break ties.
Yeah, you mean like basic
process?
scoring, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
and it's nice too, because I think most international cons are juried too, so you have the less added stress of being like, oh my God, am I even going to get into the show? Like you already know at that point, which is super nice. And you kind of have that kind of they've already done the comparison of you, I guess, as an individual in that space, and then you're truly just focusing on, I've already done the costume. There's not much else I can do at this point, to help. So it's just selling your piece and getting as many points as you can.
Yeah. I think it helps the international community really support each other better too, because, you really are competing against yourself.
Yeah.
So
exactly. And that's just a healthy mindset to take into the judging room. It's very calming and relaxing to me to think about it as it's me against me, doing the best I can.
So what do you think, Brittani?
About that particular thing?
Yeah.
I don't know. I guess I don't understand the concept of me against myself, I suppose, because you are competing against other people, and at the end of the day, somebody's going to win the contest.
Well, I mean, when the judges are looking at your costume specifically, they're not looking at let's say you're doing, Borderlands and
Mhm.
Jedimanda's doing, Ashoka. They're not taking Borderlands and comparing it. Okay, this thermo looks they're not going back and forth between the details of the two costumes and deciding your scores based on the differences between your
That's all
two
like an end
costumes.
thing. Yeah,
Yeah,
that's just
exactly.
at the end. Yeah.
Yeah,
I understand.
so they're
Okay, I understand.
yeah, they're scoring you based on what they're seeing in your costume. They're scoring
Yeah.
her based on what they're seeing in her costume.
Yeah, they're given the 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, like
Exactly.
yeah,
Exactly.
I got you. Okay.
Yeah. So that's what I mean. And
Okay.
you're not competing direct, like, yes, you're
Yeah, yeah.
competing against them, but
but they're not scoring me based on her. I see.
And
what
you
you're saying.
don't need to worry about being supportive of somebody else because you're afraid they're going to beat you. That's
Mhm.
kind of where I was going with that.
Right.
But
And Tamarah also brought up a point about being juried. Most of the international contests being juried. When it comes to participants or applicants or who want to be get involved in the international competitions like that, and they don't make it. What do you suggest to them to kind of keep their interest or keep them motivated to go? Would it be something? I mean, like me myself, I've not competed in one of those yet, because I'm planning to in the very, very near future.
You can.
But like if I didn't make it, I'd like to. What did I do wrong? What can I do? How would you all handle that? Something like that.
I feel like I keep chiming in much, but I can definitely speak to the juried aspect because He Makeup was juried every year because with the fully international video submission contest, we would get hundreds of entries, all of them amazing. Like you have to think about the end audience watching a show, right? You can't really realistically have a cosplay competition with like 500 entries. That's even if
you could, but it would take weeks.
Yeah, exactly.
Do that.
Literal weeks.
There isn't enough tech budget. Like your audio visual guys, like they're all and ladies, they'll all be torched, right?
Oh yeah.
So it's also going back to a good clue. I don't know if people who are entering juried contests are, again, look at the rules, talk with your showrunner. It almost always comes down to how is the show going to be well-rounded for that audience and for the different types of categories. So if you've got a construction versus a performance contest, you're probably going to have equal parts of both. You want to show a good mix of everything. You want to show a good mix of genres. You want to show a good mix of pop culture. So a lot of showrunners and judges and like pre-jury panels, depending on how the contest is going, like some contests have a different panel of judges that just juried entrants versus the ones that judge at the very end. It's variety and passion. If it's just a bunch of the same costume because people think it's going to be popular, that's going to ring hollow. But if someone shows up with like a really banger build with something that they are passionate about, even if it is super hyper niche, that's probably going to get in. That's probably going to get past the jury. Like well done passion is almost always going to trump popularity.
Yeah, it used to be that you had to hit like one of the 5 big highlights to get into shows, right? It had
Like
to hit the nostalgia, the comedic, the iconic, and now I think this is one of the great things about anime and how much it's brought to the community, honestly. Like you've got so many diverse characters now, and it's not just, it's going to be sci-fi or it's going to be fantasy or it's going to be retro or it's going to be nostalgia. No, now it's going to be awesome, period. You're going to have too many characters to choose from.
Mm-hmm. And that's one of the things that I really like about juried contests in general, even if not even on the international stage, because like you said, you want to make sure that your contest has a good variety. I know I've seen many shows recently, especially very recent one I went to, where I think 20 of the 30 like different acts or show pieces were idols or idol groups. So it's just like, that's a lot of idols.
Yeah.
So, and it wasn't very varied enough. And so, like,
Yeah.
I know we tried to compete in one of them, and they're like, "Well, you're number 21 on the wait list," and we're like, okay,
Right.
that's fine. Well, we'll compete, have fun. So it's my personal preference is I love the idea of it being juried. That way, as a con runner, you know what you're kind of getting. I know, Mera, when we ran that ours, we made sure that people were spread out appropriately so that you had a good show. Because in the end, it's about a show. Putting on a good show for your audience, and they're having a good time.
And it's funny to me because when I started my cosplay career, I was like #1 hater of juried process because like, how are they going to know if it's going to be good or not? Isn't everyone finishing their costume at the last possible minute? Like, what do you mean?
No.
And then I grew in my cosplay career and started running shows, and I realized it just makes a better show, right? Like, folks are less stressed out about getting their costume done because most juried processes have a completion timeline. And if you have a circuit, even more of a completion timeline because you have to be able to compete in it before you can get to the end show, right? And I think it provides an opportunity, like if you do the kind of first come, first serve type of show. And I'm going to also preface with this, not every show has to be juried, not every show has to be the same. In some shows, it totally makes sense to have a non-jury process, first come, first serve. But not everybody can be at their computer, at whatever time of the day to hit the submit button, right? Folks work, people have school, people have whatever going on. So I really like it from a just kind of accessibility standpoint as well of like, look, people have different things going on in their lives. If people need to freak out about the rules and submit at the last possible minute, like I did for Crown, then go for it. If you're like one of the early submitters, right? Exactly. 11:59 is still on time.
Yeah, right.
So wait,
I got time.
Your con crunch looks completely different than everybody else's con crunch because it's 6 months in advance. Sorry.
Exactly. No,
Technically,
exactly. You're still crunching. Like, no, the behavior never leaves, but it is at least less frustrating at the time of the convention. Like, you can stress out about other things closer to the show.
True.
So I think I really am a big fan of it for large shows when you get a ton of entries. I guess to the original point of kind of what do you do if you don't get in?
Yeah.
As a showrunner, we get a lot of disappointed folks when you can't let 300 people into the show. It super sucks. I think when you watch the online response to that, I think that's just indicative of what we were saying of like, know thyself. If you're going to lose your mind because you haven't gotten to a contest, perhaps that's not the best year to get in, right? And the other piece is, in the US in particular, there are thousands of contests going on at a year, many on the same weekend.
I was going to say,
many.
there's 50. Oh gosh, I just forgot how many weeks are in a year. 52?
52.
56.
Yeah.
I was like 56. No, Mera, you are so wrong. 52.
Yeah,
That's an extra month. I will take it.
There's 52 weekends in a year. There are a minimum of 10 conventions every weekend in the United
but then it's just a matter of finding the good ones.
Finding the ones, yes.
That's the trick.
That are fit for you.
That's absolutely true.
Yeah, but there's also a lot of ones that are not run the same way a general craftsmanship contest is run. So that's why asking around about competitions is really important in my opinion. Like on what we were talking about earlier about like asking questions to like the organizers and stuff. I would never personally enter only competitions that I know are the rules like are obvious and like laid out exactly the way that they're supposed to be, and nothing can really be ambiguous because I don't want to get there and say I make an original design contest or costume, for instance, and there's nothing in the rules that says original design costume can't win, we'll just say like best in show. But turns out there's like this side rule that actually is not even in there that actually says that they can't do it. Or there's a rule in there that says original design costumes can't win best in show. And then you go to ask about that and they say, oh yeah, no, they can do that. So it's always important to ask those questions. And if I don't have those answers personally, I will not enter that contest because otherwise I know that I don't even have a chance.
Yeah, that's
Brittany and I did a contest last year where we judged and it was that way. And it was the original designs can't win best overall. They can win
I don't like that. I
can't stand that. That's
it's not for me. I understand certain contests can't do that, like ones that are like full anime must be anime. I get it. Or full, I don't know, we'll go Comic-Con and it has to be superhero or something like that. But
or like the Star Trek pageant or whatever.
Yes,
no, I get that. Yeah.
But if there's just costume contest, craftsmanship, I just believe they need to start taking more original designs, in my opinion. That's just
totally agree. Yeah, no, I think that's a great point. as a community, I think there's so many kind of unwritten things that you find out after the fact with contests that it gets frustrating. And I have to imagine for competitors, it's disheartening, and it kind of turns off your desire to want to compete, not just in those contests, but in others.
Right.
Because
Well, you want to
don't
be
know who you
judged
can
fairly
trust.
too. You don't want to
Yeah.
feel like you're not being judged fairly. Like I know a contest that I saw last year where the people who won, who were the best masters, couldn't win best in show because a master couldn't win best in show. And I was like, who? The who? No, we're not talking about it. We're just saying the what? Because that's the stupidest rule I've ever heard. But sometimes those rules exist, and maybe they're old rules. Maybe they're ones they didn't even realize were in there. But sometimes that's a thing, and that's why you always have to ask.
No,
And if you
actually,
don't
I
have a
think I know.
response, then you need to have
Bad
it.
copy pasta year to year. It happens to the best of
Yeah.
us.
Yeah,
it
I mean,
sucks.
I hate to say this. I actually know, and this is the way with a lot of rules, right? I know which contest you're talking about, and I know why that rule exists. And here's the thing that bothers me about it. They were never transparent about the fact that they added that rule in. They let people find it accidentally every year.
Also,
And
it's a
it's
dumb
only
rule. It
it's a
shouldn't
dumb rule.
exist.
And it's only been there, get this, since COVID. And it was created to keep a couple of very specific people from winning. Now,
I mean,
that's
I
the wrong
personally
kind of
think-
rule.
Okay, I personally think if they're going to have a rule like that, like, okay, to keep from a person from winning, you need to say this, like, if you have won in the past, you cannot win for, I don't know, 2 more years, or you
That's a
can't
good
win
one.
again best in show, versus saying, if you're a master, you can't win best in show. That's just stupid. That's
Yeah,
absolutely
that's
stupid.
ridiculous.
And then people who are at the highest level are going to be discouraged from competing in your contest, which is dumb.
Well, and inevitably that show's
Make it
going
make
to end up.
sense.
I mean, now that people, more attention is being called to that on a
Right.
regular basis. And now that people are starting to pick up on that, that show is going to see even more of a nosedive than
Yeah.
it has seen for the
Yeah.
last 4 years. But that also goes back to showrunners, not just like costume contest runners, showrunners, but
Mhm.
showrunners as in the, the actual convention runners. They have to take some responsibility for taking care of the cosplay community and taking care of these contests. If
Yeah.
they want the entertainment value from those contests, they have to put the work into making sure that those contests are running well and that they've got good people running them and that good choices are being made
Yep.
on rules and everything else. I mean, that's a no-brainer.
Yep.
Sorry, I went off on my own soapbox.
I did
Sorry,
a
you
little
and
bit
I.
too.
I'm
I did a little
sharing
bit
your
too.
soapbox, man.
So
Soapbox spot.
I did have something that I was thinking about earlier, and it's something that's Mera brought up, is like with the regionals versus the championships and stuff like that. Like for people who are first time competing, let's say they randomly get at one of the regionals, they win, right? They win their regional, and it's like, that's awesome. And now they have to go to another location. What is your, I know, like for, let's say C2E2, like competing there, that's a lot of the times the end all, right? Like it's the big one, everybody's coming there. Like, I'm just not sure what the process is on somebody who competes with one of the other contests. And do you have to take your exact build, or can you add on to it? Do you make changes, stuff like that? Just curious what y'all think. I'm not sure.
Yeah, it depends on the contest. And for my year at Crown, that was when they did it in 2 parts. So the regional and national and like the C2E2 winner were all crowned at that one show, and then they did the international one in London. But I've seen a lot of international shows where sometimes you can change the costume, sometimes you can't. And if you're going to change the costume, one of the I'll put this out there. For any international show that has like some kind of qualifier, there is some element of marketing in this and some element of sponsorship. So that's one thing to think about, because they're paying for you to fly to whatever place.
Mhm.
So you can't just kind of willy-nilly change your costume without telling a person and getting permission to what that costume is going to be, because for whatever, all intents and purposes, you've won in that particular piece, and that's what they have kind of shared with the hosting organization is what's going to be there. So it's never like necessarily no, but a lot of shows you have to do some kind of conversation with a showrunner or have conferences with another team of judges or something along those lines before you can just kind of willy-nilly change stuff, because that is an element of safety from a show running standpoint, right? You don't want somebody to be like, okay, this is our winner. We're going to spend thousands of dollars for this person to represent our home show, and they're going to show up in something crazy. You have to kind of have those conversations.
Yeah.
So that's one element of things. The other thing is, it kind of depends on what you want in your experience. I really liked the traditional way of Crown because I don't like stressing out for months trying to figure out what the outcome is going to be. But it was nice for me to have that experience with London because you can see what am I like in this like 4 months or 6 months or 8 months between competition leg 1 and competition leg 2. What are other people like, right? Like what's going to kind of happen in those areas. So I think it's just a really interesting social moment to kind of see what those experiences are like. And that can also change things, right? Folks, I've seen it happen many times where people will change their costume because they've seen what the other person's doing. That's a good way of thinking about competition, frankly. Like sometimes it's kind of gross, but it's a competition, right? So I think, it just kind of depends on what you want your experience to be, and it depends on the show. But to answer your original question, typically you can't just kind of willy-nilly change. You got to have some conversation somewhere about what it's going to be in your next leg.
Were you allowed to change your costume? Like not change the costume, but like upgrade it if you wanted?
You can upgrades always, I feel like, is genuinely okay. It's like if you're changing it completely. And in that one, yes, because we had several people. Yeah, in that year, lots of people changed their costumes from their original year in Crown. But also it was like a weird year, remember? Like they had like at some point like over a year between like when competitors were in there. So people had changed their stuff and it was a whole thing. So yeah, you couldn't in this one for sure.
Okay.
I didn't have time to, but
I think that answered it. Like with the upgrading, trying to like how do you like get things to kind of be even more. You had a new idea that you went into it.
Remake a part because it could be this much better.
Different. Okay, I'm tracking now. Upgrading, I think, is always fine. And I think after you compete in it once too, you're like, okay, I know what I didn't do well in this. Let's change it up for the next round of judges. I know what's going to travel well in this leg versus this leg. I think upgrades are usually encouraged, frankly. But I don't know anyone really who doesn't done some kind of upgrade typically in something. So yeah.
Well, I mean,
something rips, on your way in. I don't know. So yeah.
Yeah, I would imagine. I mean, Amanda, I'm guessing for when you decided to take it to Spain, you made a lot of modifications from the sound of it, right?
Actually, not really. No.
Oh, okay.
That dress was done. And I rushed a dagger prop because I know I needed something else to go with it to help boost my build up a bit. And I did, make the dagger prettier, let's just say. And then I ended up adding more hair to my wig. I think that was the one thing I did was I beefed her up.
Yeah. More weapons is always good.
But there wasn't much more for you to do in the build because it was like the build
not
that
for
it
me.
is.
But my other not competitors, but the other Team USA, who are the Masquerade side, they ended up upgrading theirs a lot. Like I remember Jessie was talking about how like she added like quilting to hers, and then like the other one did like better armor, like scrapped the whole thing, but they had the same designs. Now, however, I would say at least half of the international competitors at the ICL I was in did new costumes. All of them.
Really?
Oh yeah. And this sounds kind of terrible, but also when you're at this level, you kind of want to know what you're going up against. Okay.
Right.
So I was sizing people up. We all do it, so don't say you don't.
Yeah.
I was sizing people up, looking at their costumes online, what they wanted, and I'm like, okay, like I feel pretty good. And then I get there, I'm like,
everybody's got new stuff.
Yeah.
Everyone's got
really
No, I can imagine that would be
Where was that?
frustrating. It's like reverse sandbagging. Like we all
a little bit. A little bit. And it wasn't terrible either, but also was funny was in the year of the ICL qualifiers, the USA are the first people to qualify. So technically we had the most time to redo our stuff. We could have, and I didn't, and I was like, oh, okay.
No. Just
okay. And I'm pretty sure I'm thinking at the top 3 craftsmen that won, all of them except one, I think, had new costumes.
Damn.
Wow.
So I was like, bruh.
Really?
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's like what?
Yeah.
That's crazy.
So
Oh my
When you're all
goodness.
thinking of like time commitment, we talk about time and everything like that, and like what like and when you're all thinking, I want to compete. Okay, I want to compete internationally again at this contest. What is your all's timeline now? Like I know 7 years ago, 8 years ago, it was just a couple of months or 4 months, 5 months. Now we're seeing like starting to see a lot longer times.
Yeah,
People
year
coming with
minimum.
the builds.
Yeah, I actually sent a mess. I don't remember what I was commenting on, but I sent a message
We were talking
to
about
Amanda
something.
recently, and I was
Yeah.
just like, you know what? I think either one of us could win crowns. The problem is we don't have a freaking year to just like make something.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Like I just like for this year, I'm starting on my build to compete in 2026. If that says anything.
Well, I will probably see you there.
probably
Since
see you
apparently
there,
I've
too.
decided I'm going back into international competition this year.
That's
Gotta.
the one I'm my
Yeah.
first one I'm going to attempt to. So yeah.
And like 1 year, I don't mean to like put everyone off. If you have a stellar build that
Yeah.
you completed in 6 months and you feel absolutely confident about it, hell
Yeah.
yeah, go queen.
But
just
but-
know that a
Yeah.
lot of others
put a lot more
putting
time.
putting
I mean,
a
it's
lot
not
of
that you
time into it.
can't put together a costume
Mhm.
in 6 months to do it.
Oh,
It's a
yeah.
matter of like how much time do you actually have to dedicate to it?
Mhm.
Because I'd say that most people who are winning like crowns specifically are generally putting in more than 1,000 hours.
More than
So
that.
Oh, I
it
would
depends on
guess.
how many of those
Yeah.
1,000 hours you could fit into or more, you know. So
Yeah.
It's
I mean,
it's all
being
about the
honest.
dedication of
Yeah.
time, really. I mean, I know.
I mean, and then there are some of us that just mold everything in clay and have a vacuum form table in the back. So, you know.
yeah.
Well, aren't you lucky?
yeah.
It's in my alternate universe. That's
I'm,
what-
you know, I'm just nuts. I'm not lucky. I'm nuts. Char, sorry, it looks like you were trying to say something there.
No, it's just it comes down to how much time you have to create, and like, that 1,000 hours can be spread or it can be really condensed. I mean, I know I've
Yep.
gotten
Mhm.
into like super creative modes where
Yeah.
Mhm.
I have got to go into a cave and create, and I will not come out until it's something splendid.
Right.
Yeah, I
Well-
think you and I are kindred spirits because I do
Yeah.
the same thing. I'll be like, excuse me, guys, I'll be back. And like 3 weeks later, my kids are going, has anybody seen Mom? And my husband's going, how did you make that?
It's just a
And
matter
I'm
of
like,
if you have the time or not. That's the
That's
big
very
thing, is
true.
if you have
Yeah.
it. Like
I was
I
saying,
built
Mera-
my
Go ahead.
Go ahead.
Sorry.
Okay. I built my TwitchCon costume in 4.5 months. And that's like the best costume I've ever made. So like I did crawl into a hole a bit and just do that nonstop for
It's
literally
glorious.
the whole time.
I hear that too because when I did 2022, Mera knows the one I'm talking about.
Yeah.
My Rococo Sailor Pluto. That one was a 2-month build, and it was like I was gone. Like I need 5 time turners going at the same time. Somehow
Yeah.
I managed to pull it all together. I don't know, and that one was.
oh, and
I still can't believe it happened.
oh no, he was glorious. I mean, that was probably by far like I've seen a ton of iterations of Sailor Scouts, and I think everybody else probably has too. And I think that
Sailor
is
Guardians.
yes,
Yes.
Sailor Guardians.
Manly.
Sorry,
I have to
Yes.
correct.
thank you. Sorry.
Sorry, I'm
Um,
that guy.
no, you're fine. You're fine. I honestly, I do remember. I promise. I just forget when I'm.
It's okay. It's okay.
No, it's okay. I'm not giving up my Sailor Mercury card yet. Anyway, but no, I mean his Sailor Pluto is glorious though. That Rococo is so pretty. But one of the things we talked about wigs a little bit too, but one of the things we didn't talk in the judging and building process is makeup. And Brittani, you were talking about your paint jobs and your cartooniness and everything else. And I think we would be remiss if we didn't, kind of talk about how the makeup side of things impacts, the costume and also the judging aspects on the makeup.
I mean, I personally don't go hog wild on makeup because I let the rest of the costume like speak for itself. But if I have to do makeup, I'll do it.
Mhm.
So like cell shading stuff's fairly simple, honestly, especially if you like know how to paint, you understand shadow highlight and how to put down a line with a paintbrush. So makeup stuff for me is generally pretty easy when it comes to like Borderlandsy kind of stuff. And then, body paint kind of stuff. You're just putting down a color and you're shadow shading it, Makeup's not really my strong suit overall. Usually it's the rest, and then the makeup is kind of just last. As
Hold
long
on,
as it doesn't look horrible, it's usually fine.
No, stop. Okay, Amanda, is makeup your strong suit, or are you going to tell me the same thing?
I mean, it's not something I go out of my way to compete on. However, I will caveat that.
Oh, she does know how to do the things.
I do know how to do the things.
She does.
I did my book on
actually.
it. I know how to do the things, but in a judging sense, sometimes makeup can make or break you. We look for a full look, and that includes your face. And if your makeup is not a part of your costume, that's fine. You know, like, give us your absolute A+ game. So I always try to tell people that, like, sometimes, and I understand cons are sweaty. I get it. But like a competition, we need your peak, y'all.
Yes, exactly. And I'm just going to say this now. If you think Brittani, she is more humble. Oh my God. You should see. She says it's not makeup.
You're
It's
just
glorious.
distracted. I mean, you don't even notice my face when the rest of it's there. I'm just like, don't look at my face. Look at the rest.
She does
I
have a
don't
lot
looking
of
at
a
my
lot
face.
of this around.
I know.
Yeah, there's
I know
like
when-
this here and this there and everything. Ooh, just don't
How
look
am
at my
I the
face.
only one that sees her makeup? I don't get it.
I don't get
You might
it.
be. You might be.
Like, I know, and you have to also take into account too with the makeup as like your travel time, like not, and specifically like that year. So Mera, for that year, we were down at the 12, so 7 blocks away roughly from the rest of the con.
I'm not even going
walked
there.
uphill the whole way
In
and
the
I'm
high heel
aiming at-
boots.
Yeah, in those boots, all the way up through past the big photo gallery that everybody wants to stop taking photos at and get up there. So you have to really think about like what's it going to look like when you get there.
Right.
You have enough time to fix it if it's not perfect. So
Right.
you really kind of take that into account. I know one year like that, the next year I actually didn't do my makeup till I got there. I like waited as I was like, we're just
That's
gonna
fair. But you want to look good for the day too, though. That's the
also
thing.
fair. That's also true.
That's the thing. But like for me, I've never had to like judge somebody so closely that the makeup was the thing that broke it. Personally, it's more likely a wig will be worse. And that's the more noticeable thing. But actually, people have gotten a lot better at wigs too. Even the youngins be like stepping their game up. I'm like, teach us. Teach us your
really good.
skills.
I still can't do it.
Well, a lot of these people, like a lot of these cosplayers who are, all the cosplayers that we saw, like that really came up over lockdown, that would buy a lot of costumes.
Oh yeah.
Their one way to really create and express themselves and add to the costume was learning wig craft. So we see a lot of wigs, especially with people who either can't sew yet or choose not to sew. They are making these absolutely amazing wigs. And that's a craft I'm really enjoying seeing people get recognized for that, because that's 3D sculpting.
It is.
It is not easy at all.
It's more specialized.
It's 3D sculpting in a very difficult medium. I mean, Hanko-on or natural human hair doesn't matter. Getting it to move in those ways, especially to be as emotive as so many of these anime hairstyles and these, you know, these character hairstyles are now, that's impressive. I mean, even if you're doing a historically accurate, even though I don't know anybody that actually rolls these anymore. We all build them on top of foam, right?
Yeah.
But I mean, these wigs are art pieces. They are everything we make is wearable art, period. But some of it's a little bit more complex than others. So
I have to admit, Mera, with the Rococo Pluto, I didn't have a wig a week before that.
I'm not.
I wasn't going to do one, and someone's like, "You probably should."
You have to.
Yeah, I vaguely remember you going, "Do I need a wig?" And I was like, I'm the contest runner. I can't tell you that.
My big, I know you were like, I can't say that, but my big thing with my drag and with my others and stuff I always did was I incorporated my own hair and I made my hair to match how I wanted it to. So my original plan was I used Mera Paradise paint on my beard, and I was going to do the same thing for my hair. So it was just, I always just incorporate it in somehow. So that was my original plan. And they're like, no, you should do a wig. I'm like, oh, okay. Hate
Hair
styling
and
wigs. Here we go.
hair and makeup. Hair and makeup are one of the biggest things
Yeah.
that make it so you are wearing the costume's not wearing you.
Yes.
I agree.
Exactly.
agree.
Those very important finishing touches, the details, making sure stuff is pressed. Like if you're going to travel internationally, when you take it out of the bag, please steam it, please press
Steam.
it, please whatever you need to do to make
Yeah.
it look pretty. Like don't come on stage with creases.
And I think
That
one
makes me
thing
cry.
I can't the steaming, y'all got steam everyone invest in a travel steamer. One thing
No, you don't have to. Hot shower.
Mhm.
Oh,
Turn
that's
on the
what
hot
I do.
shower.
No,
Put it
hot
in your
shower.
No.
bathroom.
But I like to get in there with it.
I do too. I like the little steamer guy.
Amanda knows.
But I will say,
I mean,
I guess
I have one. I do. I prefer the shower steam, and I will leave it in there for 8 hours, and I will steam the living daylights out of it, unless it's got glue aspects, in which case, no, I will always use the
I
hand
mean,
steam.
to
All right,
be
what do you-
fair, it's the hotel's water, not yours. so-
Exactly.
All right, what are you thinking, Amanda? What are you thinking?
She's thinking I'm nuts.
Well, no. I'm not thinking you're nuts. You're resourceful. It's fine. Space is a virtue in your luggage.
Yes.
I also
Mm.
steamers act as kind of like a hairspray for wigs. All of
That's
our
true.
wigs,
Yes.
Yeah.
unless you're using a real hair wig, which I've done before. You can make styles with steam and not
Yes.
necessarily have to use a glue. So
Yeah.
they're very, very handy. And also it's very hard to get a crease out with
That's true.
just environmental steam. You gotta have to
Right.
get in there.
You gotta really get it.
Okay, so I stand
Most
corrected.
hotels
Amanda
hire.
has corrected me.
It
No,
does
I
help
stand corrected.
overall,
She's right.
but yeah.
Yeah.
Hey, you do you. That's okay. If
I
I
just
see
like,
a crease,
but I
then it
can't-
could have been prevented.
Right.
I mean, I was born and raised in the South. I like my hotel rooms to feel like home. I don't know.
there's one point I wanted to talk about because I think it was just a really important thing that I don't think competitors think about sometimes, especially if you're newer. That's why I like the international realm, because it's people who kind of think like there's cosplay and then there's cosplay competition, right? And I
Right.
think a lot of times competitors, like newer competitors, use the cosplay competition as a time to try a new thing. And that's not the case at high level competitions, right? So like we're talking about makeup scores. I don't like body paint. I don't like doing it. It's the worst for me. I hate it. I hate the whole thing. So I likely would not compete in a thing that would require me to do body paint. I'm not good at it. I don't like doing it. It makes me uncomfortable. There's other ways that I could like put my time and attention into. But that's also not the time to try foam work for the first time or, sewing for the first time. You really want to make it an experience where you're highlighting the best of the way that you can do things. That's not to say that you can't try new things. I think you need to find whatever is going to keep you motivated to work on a project. But I think there's always a learning curve with learning a new skill. And if you're really trying to highlight that skill to a group of judges, especially on an international level, that you're polishing that particular skill. And so leave yourself enough time to learn it if it's going to be brand new for you. Or, if you don't like body paint, don't pick a character with body paint. There's so many ways around the problem, I think. And I think sometimes competitors get stuck in this idea of like, I have to compete in this particular character. I have to compete in this particular costume, or I have to incorporate X, Y, and Z and put every single thing at the wall. It's great to have a smattering of skill sets. I think that's an important element of international cosplay and high level competition, is having a lot of different techniques. But you don't necessarily have to do things you've never heard of before until like the week before the show. Give yourself time to kind of prepare those things, and don't pick things that are going to make you miserable when you go. So
Yeah,
that's my
actually,
2
I'm
cents.
gonna piggyback on that because and I mean I've done costumes and makeup for almost 30 years now, and I made a huge faux pas and actually made myself very sick in 2019, because they always tell you, right? Try on your shoes, break in your shoes, all this other fun stuff. Try your new
I'm
products.
never gonna do that.
Right.
I want to, but I'm never gonna do it.
Oh, really? Okay. Well,
It's
you're
not
more daring
happening.
than I
I'm
am.
sorry.
I mean, I've done it. I've gone that route with shoes before, but in 2019, I learned exactly what that meant when it came to makeup, because I always use the same products. It's not a big deal. Like, I'm very familiar with the blends that work for my skin, what I'm allergic to, what I can't touch, that kind of thing. And I forgot one of my body paints. I left it all the way up in Virginia, and I'm down in Georgia. And here I go running into, Norcosco, which is an amazing, makeup shop in Atlanta. And I'm like, I'm in desperate need. I need this color. And they were out of the Mera Paradise paint. They were out of the Ben Nye. They were out of every product I had ever used. And they were like, well, do you have an airbrush with you? And I went, I do. And they're like, well, here, try this. And so I picked up this new airbrush paint that I had never used before. Check the ingredients. Of course, it doesn't have any of the stuff I'm allergic to in it. So I'm like, okay, I'll be fine. They did not tell me because likely they didn't know. And I ended up having to search online for almost 2 weeks to figure out what happened because it made me so sick. But apparently, if you mix that particular airbrush paint with any of the Final Seal products from Ben Nye, you can create a nerve toxin that will make you ill.
No.
That's a good thing to know.
Yeah, like, try your products in advance because you want to know that before you get to a competition.
Dude, that's crazy.
It was nuts. And like, I didn't use enough of it to make myself like so sick that I ended up in the hospital or anything, but nausea, vomiting, like sweats, disorientation, migraine headache, and like could not figure out. I thought it was food poisoning.
Oh, wow.
I was just like, this has got to be. And by the time I got home, I'm looking at my doctor going, and I'm still having the effects. And he's like, what's this blue tint on your skin up here? I'm like, I can't get all the makeup off.
Yeah.
And that's the other thing. Like, if you can't get the makeup off with every good makeup remover, don't ever use that product again, period. But anyway. Okay. So we're going to jump into our final segment here real quick before we let everybody go for the night. This is a segment we like to call, How Would You Build It?
If you could make
So we got
this.
4 amazing costumers, 4 amazing cosplayers, and 1 character. So, Brian, drum roll, please.
Drum.
The character of the week, of course, because everybody has fallen in love with this movie. Everybody has fallen in love with this. So the one voted on by popular demand is Glenda from the newest Wicked movie. So if you were to replicate the Glenda costume, what would be your method to do it? And last time, if memory serves, we went counterclockwise, so we're going to go clockwise this time, right? So that means, Char, you're up first.
Oh, okay. I'm assuming that you mean the big opening fluffy pink dress. Yeah, the bubble dress.
Yes, the bubble dress.
Okay. This is definitely like in one of my preferred genres of costuming. I love fluff, I love puff. For this one, I would need like a truckload of organza, a whole horsehair braid, and so many circles. But I think my favorite part would be all the embellishment. I'm definitely an embellishment girly, so I would look forward to making a good strong structure, but then sitting down with that on my dress form and doing all the little details, like all the little foiling for the bubbles. And because my style of design and crafting is I like to over detail. Yes. I would like to add more, like maybe some tambour embroidery, a whole lot of rhinestones, and just everything to make it undeniably Galinda. That's how
I love it. That's wonderful. Okay. So Brittani, what about you? How would you build it?
A good portion of working on this would be me staring at references. So getting really good references would be the most important thing to me. I've already seen a couple of videos of like the undergarments, and that would be like the huge structure part of it. So I'd want to make sure that structure is really good. I know that each one of those draped pieces are like all circles, like you mentioned, and you'd have to like go in and do all of the work on all of those before you attach them to the dress, which they may all be detachable. I think I saw a video of them being detachable, and I was like, okay, all right.
Technically, according to the designs and all the reference pictures I've seen, it appears to be 4 skirts with an upper leotard that has a small skirt that comes over the top to hide the waistband of the top skirts.
Mm-hmm. Like I said, the references are going to be super important. And if there is video or pictures of what it looks like each piece going on, that's going to be the most important thing. Mm-hmm. So creating a really good structure for the underneath. Obviously, embroidery, doing a lot of hand beading work and stuff like that. I'd probably go closer to accuracy just because that's what I like to do.
Yeah.
And yeah, like you said, truckload of organza. I mean, do a lot of fabric swatching, things of that nature to get everything just right. Yeah.
All right. So, Tamarah, how would you make it?
Probably similarly, tons and tons and tons of research.
Yeah.
I always go
Tons.
inside out first, of course, like you do your undergarments and structuring. But I think I would start with the shoes, frankly. Like I think thinking about your height and your costume and like how long do you want your
I
hoop
see
skirt
no
to be?
shoes in this picture.
Right, but like how high are the heels supposed to be? Like
Right.
what are we doing? You know what I mean? I'm gonna start with
Right.
the
Do,
shoes
do
and
they
then
have the little pop that you have to pop out?
There.
Oh,
Yeah, exactly. Like what's going on?
Those specific ones.
Yeah. I'd like to know what shoes I'm working with.
Yes.
Because then you can determine the height of your or length of your hoop skirt and all your other skirts on top and like your
Right.
kind of proportions and stuff like that. And then, you know, undergarments, how it's going to fit together. If you want the fit of it to be similar to how they've made it for the movie, or if you're kind of thinking in terms of like, I gotta transport this thing or it's gonna sit on a
Yeah.
mannequin or whatever. So I think I'd think a little bit about what my particular purpose of it was for. And then yeah, we're getting to Organza City, baby. So much horsehair braid.
I love it.
Horsehair braid,
Amazon or the boxes from all the fabric suppliers is going to be a hellscape of my porch for the next however months, and I love that. So a little rhinestone, a little whatever. So
My Amazon driver hates me. Like I left him a wonderful tip for Christmas, and apparently when my son gave it to him and took the last package, he went, whatever it is, it's not enough, and walked off. I was like, oh my God.
my male people hate me. I have a thing about swatches. I just like to have them, even if I'm not going to use them. And I'm just like, I just want everything. And then it's just my male people hate me in general. So I fully identify. Yeah.
Yeah,
it's
my
bad.
whole neighborhood's just like Amazon threw up on her porch again.
It's a bad situation.
All
So
right,
that's
so
how I do it.
yep. All right, so Amanda, how would you do it?
Well, there's everyone's mentioned exactly how it should be
Yeah.
done. One thing is I never saw Wicked. I know what this looks like, and so I had to look it up. But I did the one of the 3 Team Portugal people from the ICL, Glenn design, was Glenda this year. So I got to get up close to her design and to
Nice.
look at it, and it was
Beautiful.
so cool. And if I remember right, like the amount of like sequins that were just everywhere. It was so cool, and all of the cool different trims. Like it was exciting for me as just a maker. I would never cosplay Glenda. But it was just really cool to see all the stuff. But I think also one thing I would just add, just as a fun little bit, especially if you're competing with this, is to put bubbles in the wand somehow.
I love it. Yeah, it should be a
Yeah.
bubble blower. I think that's
Like,
excellent.
yeah, like push a button or like the button at the bottom of the stand and like 2 bubbles.
Bubbles.
Yep. And, she does move in a bubble, Doug. Comes down in a bubble, Doug.
Bubble dog.
Bubbles.
Come down and
Grow
bubble.
up.
Yeah.
My bubbles. No, sorry. Wrong movie.
Bubble.
All right. Well, that's great. Thank you so much for joining us tonight, guys. And so I'm going to reverse it, and we're going to start with Amanda, Jedimanda.
Jetty.
Jetty.
Let me try that again.
You wouldn't, I've had other people call me
Jetty.
that.
I
It's
don't
okay.
even know what I'm doing today. No, so we're going to start with Amanda. And so, Jedimanda, where can we find you? And what events are you going to be at next?
Sure. I'm all over the internet all the time. I'm pretty active on social media at Jedimanda everywhere. The most active on Instagram and Threads, actually, and TikTok and YouTube. I am the author of 2 wonderful cosplay books. If you're interested in purchasing them, you can get them at my website, jedimanda.com, or Amazon. For next year, I am just having fun. I think the next convention that I'm going to is C2E2,
Awesome.
which is in
I'll see you there.
Me too.
Yeah,
Me
April.
too.
April. Yeah, I'm excited for that.
Awesome. All right, cool. And Tamarah, where can we find you?
Hello, you can find me on the Instagrams, it's Pros and Cons Cosplay, where my sister and I do our building kind of compilations together. Instagram, TikTok. I think we have a Blue Sky account that I have nothing to do with, so I think Tiffany manages that one. So I don't
You
know what
do.
it says, but okay, cool. We have a Blue Sky account. We have a Blue Sky
Okay.
account confirmed. Okay, great. And I think we have a website that I'm working on to rebuilding. It's there, but it's not finished yet. But anyway, it's going to be Meet Pros and Cons Cosplay .com. And then the next show I'll be at, I think my first show for the year of appearance will be NakaCon in Overland Park, Kansas in March, followed very
Awesome.
closely by Planet Comic Con in March. And then I have a couple of guest announcements kind of coming out soon through April through the rest of the year. So hopefully
Awesome.
we'll see you
Exciting.
all lots of places soon.
Yay.
Cool. All righty. What about you, Brittany?
I am Ginoza Costuming online. It's Ginoza Costuming. And I do the Instagram, the TikTok, the Facebook, all of those things. And I'm just Ginoza Costuming on all of them. And upcoming, I think I have, I'm trying to get some more shows right now because last year was like kind of my year off because the year before I was just traveling nonstop and I was like, I need some chill time. So I'm doing more, I'm trying to do some more shows now. Yes, exactly. So I got Indiana Comic Con and C2E2 is coming up. Hopefully we'll be able to do something with them. But yeah, that's what I got coming up.
Awesome. And Char, where do we find you now?
Yeah, well, I'm Shar. I'm your friend on the internet. You can find me on most social media platforms. I'm not as active as I should be. It's my New Year's resolution is to take the thoughts out of my head and actually post a little bit more, especially sewing content. You can find me as Tristen Citrine. That's TristenCitrine. I'm mostly active on Blue Sky, Facebook, Instagram, and a little bit on X, but I'm trying to phase out my X account, sadly, because it's just not as fun anymore. As for other appearances, I think I'm going to be at a couple anime cons sometime this year, so stay tuned for announcements there. But I love chatting on the internet, and I am in that cosplay runners support group. I always try to swoop in and share some knowledge for cosplay contest runners. So yeah,
Thank you for mentioning that. I totally forgot to say that. And thank you. I think all of you have participated in some capacity in that group, which I am so thankful for because a lot goes on in there all the time. But if you ever have any questions on competing specifically, Cosplay Contest Support Group on Facebook is one area. And if you are an event runner, there's a Cosplay Contest Runners Assemble group too for event runners to get together and talk about event running.
They're both excellent resources. So if you are not aware of it, get on Facebook and participate. It's worth having a Facebook account just for those two groups if you're into cosplay. Seriously.
Absolutely.
Pros and Cons does a great job of running that.
I need to be in that one, by the way.
It's a good one. Yeah, I'll send you a link.
Oh, it's wonderful. And all of those links will actually be scrolling in just a couple minutes. So just stay tuned for a little bit longer here, guys. So again, thanks everybody for joining us this evening. We hope you had a lot of fun. We hope our guests will maybe come back for future episodes. We'll be discussing a lot of stuff. If you have any sort of interesting things you'd like to hear us talk about, well, come find us. We are Defying Conventionalism. We're on youtube.com, twitch.com. We have our own Discord. We're on Blue Sky, Facebook, Instagram, TikTok. I don't know. Brian put us everywhere. Tehdy B.
I did. You have to be everywhere.
I know. And if you loved Rory at the beginning of this episode, Rory's going to be everywhere soon. And also we're on Patreon now. So like if you haven't subscribed, I think we've got plans for as low as $1. You want to get your stuff 24 hours earlier than everybody else? Come join us. So I'm Mera Rose and
I'm Tehdy B Cosplay.
And we'll see you again next week. Thanks, everybody.
Bye. Bye.